Okay, this is Neil Schilke. Steve Rode and Dick Rosenberg asked if I would help out creating a testimonial video for our good friend Butch DeHart, and I was happy to do that. So I'd just like to make a few comments about Butch. I came to GMR in 1964, and the DeHart legend was already blooming throughout GMR. Butch came to GMR in 1951 after having served in the Army Air Corps and then going to West Virginia University and coming out of the Appalachian Mountains into Michigan. His first assignment was in the ME5 department. Art Underwood, who eventually became manager of the research labs, was the department head, and Joe Bidwell was his supervisor. And Joe was an idol of Butch's, and that's good because Joe was a good man and he was an excellent engineer. So to have him as your idol was really a good thing to follow. Butch's first office mate, was a man named Louis Self, and Louis was given the responsibility of designing the pump for the Dodrell GMR mechanical heart. This was the first mechanical heart that was successfully used in an operation to enable heart surgery without the heart having to pump the blood. Now, Butch had the following role. It turned out that Louis Self he did not like blood. And here he was with the responsibility of designing a pump that had to pump blood. And a lot of this was trial and error, so they had to go get blood somewhere. And what they did, they went to a slaughterhouse and they got this 5-gallon bottle of blood. And since Louis didn't like blood, he took Butch along to help get the blood and bring it back. And it turned out that Butch had been a butcher in his high school days, so blood didn't bother him, and so they had a happy relationship there. Of course, the mechanical heart went on to be a tremendous success, and then other inventions followed. So really, that was the point at which Arnold Odell disappeared and Butch appeared, because he was the butcher and he had done this job. It's important to note that General Motors was a very, very different organization back around this time frame in the 50s, 60s, and really into the 70s. We had a very robust balance sheet, and we were a totally vertically integrated company. So all of the components that were needed for assembling a vehicle were obtained and produced by GM divisions. One of those was New Departure Hyatt, and of course, Butch, being a bearing expert, had a lot of interaction with New Departure Hyatt, and I was fortunate to participate in some of that, like driving down to Sandusky, Ohio with Butch, and always stopping in McDonald's for his favorite Egg McMuffin and a cup of coffee. He contributed so much to New Departure Hyatt, and of course they still make bearings today under different brand names, but his contributions were just all over the place. He invented new bearing configurations. He worked on surface hardness to get the right kind of connection between the components, and he invented many things that had to do with new bearings as well as with the analysis and understanding of bearings. He, of course, knew all about dynamic oil film thickness, and he knew about engine friction reduction and so on and so forth. So it was just a total tremendous set of accomplishments that he gave to General Motors during those days. If you go back to lab life, back in 1984 and 1980 even, Butch is head of a bearing research group, and he had a lot of really good experts around him. One of the people in his group was Juan Goenka. Pawan came out of Cornell University with a PhD, primarily an analytical guy. And so he came and all of a sudden confronted reality when he met Butch DeHart. And they worked together for many years. Pawan's important because he symbolizes the kind of guidance and development that Butch provided to the people that worked for him. It was a wonderful thing. Pawan was at the research labs between 1979 and 1993, and he then went back to Mumbai, India, to head up the R&D effort for Mahindra. And they soon recognized his talents, and Pawan rose up through the ranks and retired as the number one guy. He was the CEO of Mahindra. And today, if you look him up on Google, here's a mature guy that speaks very eloquently, and he really speaks for his country. So that's the kind of accomplishment that Butch had as far as developing people. So then we come to 1992, and I was given the responsibility of designing a production-ready hybrid for the 1985 X car. We nicknamed this project FX85, and Butch was one of the senior guys in the project, along with Steve and a couple others. Butch was given the responsibility of getting the energy storage device for this hybrid. Now, if you think back, in those days, things were all mechanical. There was no battery that could handle the regenerative braking energy, that could store the energy and then resupply it for accelerating the vehicle. The battery technology just wasn't there. So we developed Butch developed a hybrid flywheel system that proved to be the salvation of our overall powertrain. He had an ingenious design. It was called a cymbal hybrid, which featured several cymbals all fastened onto a drive shaft. And when they accelerated up to speed, they would flatten out their contour, and that would provide a compressive force to keep them adhered to the drive shaft. It was a brilliant design. It was a simple design, and it really saved our bacon in FX85. So we did that together. We had a lot of fun together. We traveled the U.S. together, as I mentioned before, and we took on some tough problems. And I think everybody knows Butch DeHart was an outstanding engineer, but he was really a problem solver. And his FX85 flywheel system is proof positive of that. So I guess the summary comment is that Butch was a great guy. We did a lot of really good work together. We worked hard and whatnot, but we always had fun. So God bless the memory of Butch DeHart.
Hi, this is Steve Rode, and I worked with Butch for many years, and I'd just like to add some stuff to what Neil so eloquently has said. When I started at General Motors Research in 1970, I was a car guy and still am. I drove a 1966 GTO. Butch had a 1968 Corvette at that time, I believe, and we used to drag race periodically up Mound Road. It was a lot of fun. Fortunately, we never got into much trouble. When I hired into GM, I knew some about cars and their components, but I didn't know anything about bearings. With Butch's mentorship, I learned a lot. I did calculations about bearing friction and piston ring friction. Butch and his team provided experimental verification and sometimes not of my calculations. The last time I saw Butch was in 2018. He was supposed to attend a GMR retirees breakfast in October of that year. However, he had a medical problem, so I visited him. Here we see some video from my visit to Butch and his wife Wilma that October.
This is our guard rabbit right here. Folks, I've really been looking forward to this, and when Steve called me, I've been excited about it ever since. but I have a medical problem that says I shouldn't go. So I'll try my best to make it next month. Promised.
I'm sure a lot of guys will miss you today.
Yeah. Well, next time I'm going to try to have one of my old biking buddies there and have some fun, reminisce a bit, like Jim Gallagher, a few guys like that.
Yeah, Butch, where are you? I come to this thing once a year, maybe, and I was come right now this year, today, because I thought you might be here. Well, I'll have to set up a lunch with you sometime, hopefully in Milford somewhere.
Better luck next time, and I sure appreciate Steve taking the effort to fix me up. Yeah, a lot of memories.
Indeed.
And talk about the old days when working was fun, and we got a lot of good things done. Had some unbelievable help.
You put together a great team there.
Yeah. I was kind of like the mother hen.
Sure.
And say, here's the problem, kids, and man, would they attack it. It should be fun. I work for GM Research, and when people ask me what I did, I tell them I get to do whatever I want to do, and I can't believe it. They pay me for having fun. See you next month.
Absolutely. You guys take care.
We'll do our part.
All right.
We're a team.
Yeah, I can see that. Good morning, everyone.
The following month, in November 2018, Butch did attend a GMR retirees breakfast, and I captured some more video of him.
Grandkids, looking forward to it.
Eating turkey. What else do you do on Thanksgiving?
Oh, I don't know. You tell me.
Well, we'll visit my son and his family, and there'll probably be a big bunch of people there, a bunch of babies.
Great.
So we'll be busy on Thanksgiving Day.
You recognize some of these faces?
About a third of them.
That's pretty good. So it's really nice to have you here.
Well, it's something I've been looking forward for a long time, and we almost made it last time.
I know. And next time, if you want to come, that's the Christmas one. That's the biggest one you generate.
You folks send me your videos every time, so essentially I've been there.
Right, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
I can see all the people.
Right.
I look forward to receiving it. So I look forward to receiving this one.
All right.
I see who all was here, because you're handy, you put the names on them.
So in summary, Butch was a great guy. I really enjoyed working with him, and we all will miss him.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dick Rosenberg, and here to reminisce a little bit about my experience with Butch DeHart. I had the privilege of working with Butch for some 25 of the 41 years that I spent with General Motors. And Butch was my supervisor in many cases, colleague, and mentor, and just learned so much from working with Butch on so many different things. He was just a very innovative, creative, free spirit, literally. And I think Neil has documented some of the things that he worked on. He had a great chance during his career to transition from what were the labs downtown out to the tech center and build a tech center facility for the research labs, or with the research labs, and specify some of the things that went into that in terms of what we needed to do our jobs. But I had a started out in materials, working with Butch on bearing materials, and then went through a bunch of things with engine friction. Later on, just before he retired, he and I developed a couple of lectures on engine bearing design and, in fact, engine friction reduction. And so we put those courses together back in the late 80s. And then I had the opportunity to teach those through the 90s, and then even after I retired, for almost 12 years, I guess, afterwards, we were able to do that. And that was material that just stood the test of time. The things you did to design for engine materials and low friction, just expanded tremendously in that time frame. And so Butch was just behind an awful lot of that. He just very creative. And we would go off and try various things, and it was okay to fail. It really was. And that's a hard thing to do sometimes, because you spend an awful lot of time working on something and it doesn't work out, but at least you learn something. And so we went forward on that basis. But I'd like to spend a little time talking about Butch the man. And he liked to portray himself, indeed, and he was a young man, or a man out of the hills of West Virginia. It's the town he grew up in, Davie. I think was about 1,500 people at the time that Butch was down there. It's much smaller now, but it was located on a creek with a railroad track going through it, and an awful lot of coal mining going on around there, and it's literally the heart of Appalachia, so it's tough country. And so he had a lot of expressions from that, and I know that you'd say, "See you in the morning, Butch," and he'd say, "Good Lord willing, and the creek don't rise." And unless you've been down in that country, and then you've experienced some of the things with these recent storms down south, it's important that the creek don't rise. So he always had that kind of an attitude. He kind of portrayed himself as a hillbilly, but boy, he really knew his stuff. No question about it. And I learned so much from him. I can't even recall all I learned from Butch. Just a great teacher. But he also had a fun side. It was always fun to be around Butch when I think back about it. And I remember he was an avid bike rider in his 50s, and boy, he put together all sorts of fancy equipment for a bicycle, and then he loved to ride long distances. And so it was nothing for him to take a friend, I think Jim Gallagher, out of our design activity, and the two of them would ride up to Mackinac Straits and back in a weekend, up on a Saturday, back on a Sunday. So they were just super doing that, and they spent a lot of time being working, to build their strength and everything and endurance. And I remember one time we were on a trip to a technical conference, and Butch wanted to get his exercise in, so he went to a local mall and started running up the down staircase. And this was, I think, after hours, and a guard caught him, and I guess gave him a real lecture. And he says, "Don't you think you're a little old to be doing that?" And Butch just never thought about being old. He just really just enjoyed doing things. And he did just a lot of stuff and a lot of freedom. I remember, I think it was 1970. We had both ordered Corvettes, and Butch ordered one with a performance axle, and he says, "I wonder if that really makes a difference." And so we took the two cars, our personal cars, out on the straightaway at the GM Tech Center. They had a 1 mile straightaway, north-south straightaway. And so we're out there doing 20 to 80 times just to see if we could see the difference between the two cars. So we're out there dragging on the GM test track. And Butch thought nothing of that. And I guess I got away with it, figuring, well, if my boss is doing it, it's okay for me to be doing it. So it just, things like that just touched my heartstrings. And I had the opportunity to see Butch several occasions. I never saw him when he was down in Florida after he retired, but when he and Wilma moved back up to live in Milford for a number of years, I think it was American House apartments, if you will, the retirement complex, had a lot of lunches with him, maybe once a year anyhow. Got a chance to get over and see him and reminisce a little bit, so it was always fun to do. But he was always just he wanted to have a good time. And he says, if work isn't fun, don't do it. And he was like that. Actually, I had the opportunity to spend about an hour with him about 3 weeks before he passed, it turns out. I didn't find out he had passed until several months later, but he was in a nursing facility at that time, and he was just very kind and considerate to the nurses and attendants that were working with him. So he was just a guy that was just super fun to be with, super creative, and is dearly missed. And so I just want to reminisce and share that with all of you. So wish you all a good day, and it happens to be a snowy day here in February, but hope everybody has a good time and look forward to a future. And, you know, if it ain't fun, don't do it. Thanks, everybody. Bye now.